The video lasted 6 seconds. Laughter. A pop like a firecracker. Then a yelp that didn't finish. The sound of a body hitting dirt, and laughter again. Louder this time, one of them repeating, "Dude, did you see that?" Like he'd just sunk a 3 number. Then the video ended. It was posted on a private Snapchat story. Just long enough for their little circle of trust fund parasites to pass it around and laugh over beers. Someone leaked it. Probably one of their girlfriends who thought it was too far. Maybe a younger brother who still had a soul. Doesn't matter, it made its way to me. 6 seconds was all it took to detonate my world. I watched that video with a stillness I didn't know I had. I didn't blink, didn't move. My hands were too cold to shake. On the screen, my dog, my best friend, dropped like a puppet with the strings cut. His name was Hunter. He was a mutt with one torn ear and eyes like he understood English. I found him under a trailer 4 winters ago, half-starved and snarling. Took him in. He never left my side since. Until a group of overgrown kids with more money than empathy thought it would be funny to use him for target practice. I didn't go to the cops. I didn't tell my sister or post on Facebook. I didn't beg the world for justice. That's not how it works out here. I lived in a cabin on the edge of Dunloe County. 50 miles of woods in all directions. No one comes here unless they're lost or hunting. I buried Hunter behind the shed. I marked the grave with his collar and a flat stone. Then I vanished. I drained my accounts, burned the burner phone, and disappeared. My neighbors assumed I left town. Some thought I went off the grid or killed myself. I let them believe whatever they wanted. My house sat quiet for weeks. But I didn't leave. I was watching. The boys in the video were easy to find, 3 faces clearly shown. One laughing with a Bud Light in hand, one holding the gun, one filming. I ran facial matches through old-school yearbooks, social media accounts, and hunting license databases. I built files on them like a fucking Fed. Knew their parents' names, what vehicles they drove, what trails they liked to dirt bike. I watched them from the tree line. I followed them home. I mapped every inch of their routines. Their names were Trevor Madsen, Caleb Brinker, and Jordan Hess. Trevor was the shooter. Trevor died first. He was camping with friends in a clearing near Miller's Rock. I waited until the second night. They were drunk, loud. I crept in, silent with the fog, crawling on my belly like I used to in the army. It was the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. When the fire burned low, I picked him off from 30 yards. 1 shot, right below the jaw. He didn't scream. The others screamed plenty, though. I melted back into the woods while they were still tripping over themselves, left Trevor's body where it dropped, arms splayed, blood soaking the leaves. Next morning, the sheriff's office called it an animal attack. Some said bear, some said big cat. I let them believe it. I nailed Hunter's dog tag to a pine tree 15 feet from the kill. 2 days later, I broke into Trevor's house and stole his watch. Left a single 7.62 shell with Caleb carved into it sitting on his pillow. I wanted them to understand that I wasn't done. I wasn't asking. This wasn't forgiveness or closure or healing. This was war. Caleb lived in a gated estate 3 towns over, but he wasn't hard to follow. His Range Rover stuck out like a sore thumb in town. I saw him at the gas station, eyes wide, flinching at every sound. He knew. They all knew. His dad was a state senator and still couldn't stop the fear that followed him like a shadow. I waited until he left the country club one evening. He always took the long way home. I was already there, rifle sight lined up from the tree line off Old Creek Road. The round hit his tire first. He swerved into the ditch. I approached slow, deliberate. He tried to crawl out of the car, babbling for mercy, promising money, lawyers, anything I wanted. I didn't say a word. I just opened the back of my coat and showed him Hunter's old collar. The second he saw it, something in him broke. I knelt next to him, pressed the barrel to his chest. "Say his name," I told him. "What?" he sobbed. "My dog. Say his name." He did, and I pulled the trigger. No money taken, no robbery, no witnesses. I left the shell with Jordan's name behind this time. Nailed it to the road sign at the intersection of Red Pine and Highway 10. Let the world figure out the message. By the time Jordan's turn came, the town was in chaos. News vans circled like vultures. Cops set up checkpoints, drones buzzed overhead. Everyone talked about the dog tag killer now. But none of them knew. None of them felt it like I did. They killed something sacred. They laughed about it. And I had one left. Jordan Hess was the last name on the list. But he wasn't hiding. He was running. 2 weeks after Caleb's death, Jordan's parents shipped him off to a rehab center in Arizona. That's what the media said anyway. A statement from the Hess family lawyer claimed he was receiving treatment for trauma related to recent violent events. Bullshit. That kid wasn't traumatized. He was trying to disappear. They figured if they threw enough distance and privilege between him and the woods of Dunlow County, I'd give up. Maybe they thought I'd settle down, get tired, let the pain fade like some bad fever dream. But the grief never left. It calcified, turned sharp and hard and cold. Jordan's fake healing didn't mean a goddamn thing to me. I wasn't finished. I had to be smart, though. With 2 bodies and the same calling card left behind, the law was breathing down every neck in the county. Hunters were getting pulled over just for owning bolt actions. People stopped going camping. I had to vanish even harder than before. I moved from the cabin into the caves west of Pine Hollow, lived off freeze-dried rations and stream water. No fire, no noise, just me and the rifle and time. Time to wait, time to track. I hacked into the rehab center's staff schedules. A nurse named Ethan left his Facebook too open. One selfie at a bar tagged with coworkers. The next night, I found another post. A group dinner. Jordan Hess, partially hidden at the end of the table. Pale. Shaved head. Trying to blend in. They didn't even change his name. I took a Greyhound south under a fake ID. Slept in bus stations and alleyways, moving like a ghost. It took 3 weeks to get a job washing dishes at a burger joint across from the rehab facility. That's how I got in. That's how I watched. Jordan wasn't healing. He was hiding behind pill bottles and long sleeves. He only came out during group walks around the enclosed courtyard. But I was patient. I marked every camera, every guard rotation, every shift change. It took another 6 weeks before I moved. At 3:17 AUM on a Thursday, I cut the power to the south wing and slipped through the side gate. I wore hospital scrubs I'd stolen from the laundry truck. Nobody looked twice. Inside, the emergency lights were dim, flickering red. I found his room without sound. No locks. He was asleep, or doped enough to fake it. I stood over him for a long time. Let him smell the sweat and cold and death I carried in with me. When he opened his eyes and saw me, he didn't scream, just whispered one word. Please. I wanted to snap his neck, wanted to cut his face open, wanted to hurt him like I'd dreamed every night since that video. But something held me back. He was broken already, and that didn't feel like enough. So I gagged him, zip-tied his wrists, and carried him out through the service tunnel. No one noticed for hours. Back in Dunlow, I brought him to the woods, the same place they shot Hunter. Same clearing. The ground still remembered. I tied Jordan to the same tree they used for target practice, left him there for 2 days, gave him water, barely, let the cold chew through his bones, let the bugs crawl over his skin, let him beg into the dark. Then I showed him the shell with his name on it. Why are you doing this? He sobbed. You know why? I didn't pull the trigger. He laughed. I was drunk. I was stupid. I didn't mean... You meant every second of it. Then I walked up to him, pressed the cold brass against his forehead. But I didn't fire. Instead, I untied him, dropped a hunting knife at his feet. 12-hour head start, I said. No roads, no towns, just you, the trees, and me. He stared, mouth shaking, didn't move. I stepped back, chambered around. Run. He did. And I hunted him. For hours I moved through the brush, slow and deliberate. Listening, tracking. His footsteps were erratic, panicked. I could smell the sweat, the fear. I let him think he had a chance, let him find a stream, drink, rest. Then I shot the ground next to his foot. He screamed and bolted. The game went on until nightfall. By the time I caught him, he'd collapsed under a log, sobbing, piss-soaked, barefoot, bleeding. He looked up, eyes sunken. "I'm sorry," he said. I nodded. Then I gave him the knife again. "I won't shoot you. Not if you do it yourself." He didn't. So I did it for him. Quick, precise. The same way they took Hunter, 1 second, then silence. I buried him in the same hole they dumped my dog. And when I walked out of those woods, I left behind more than a body. I left behind the part of me that still thought forgiveness was ever an option. But it wasn't over, because the video had 4 voices. And one of them, the one behind the camera, never showed his face. I played the video again, slowed it down, listened close. 3 visible faces, 3 names accounted for, all of them dead now, buried in places the wind never forgets. But there was a 4th voice, faint, just behind the lens, not laughing loud like the others, not saying much, just breathing heavy and whispering, "Get closer. Yeah, right there." That was the cameraman, and I never had his name. He never stepped into the frame. But he existed. He was the one who caught the moment, framed it, shared it. Maybe the others thought he was just filming. Maybe they figured he was along for the ride. But to me, he was worse. He saw it all through a lens, and he pressed record. I went back through every post from that night, every geotag, every picture, every comment thread. I found an old photo from a party 2 days before the video. Caleb, Trevor, Jordan, all there, holding drinks, half-drunk smiles. Off to the side, blurry but present, was another face, leaning near the keg, hoodie up, sunglasses at night. He was the ghost in their group, always just outside the spotlight. But I found him. His name was Mason Delridge. He was a dropout from Brighton College. No arrests, no military, no job listed. Just a father who owned a string of construction companies and a house up in Marion Ridge with motion cameras on every window. Mason hadn't been seen in weeks, not since Jordan died. But his truck was still parked behind his father's tool yard. It took me 2 nights to slip past the yard's cameras and wire his ignition. When I opened the glove box, I found the lens cap to a GoPro. Same model the video was shot on. I kept it, a souvenir. Next, I went to the family house. Security was tight, lights on timers, dogs in the yard. But I didn't need to go inside. I just wanted to rattle the cage. So I left Hunter's old leash wrapped around their mailbox. The next morning, Mason's father reported a break-in to the sheriff. No signs of forced entry, no theft, just that leash, laid out like a noose. I stayed close, waited, and it worked. 3 days later, Mason tried to disappear. He borrowed a car from a friend and drove north, toward Lake Lester. A quiet place, dense woods, empty rental cabins. I was already there. I knew those roads better than he ever would. I watched his taillights disappear into the fog. Then I followed. He checked into cabin 6, a mold-stained unit near the farthest edge of the lake. No one around for miles. He didn't know I'd tapped the phone at the front desk. Heard him give a fake name. Heard the shake in his voice. He knew. He knew I was coming. I waited until midnight. Then I cut the power. Same ritual, same silence. When I entered the cabin, he was already curled in the corner with a hammer in his hand, pale and sweating. The hammer fell as soon as he saw me. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. I didn't hit him. I didn't shoot him. I took out my phone and played the video. 6 seconds, that same laugh, that same shot, that same yelp. He closed his eyes like it hurt him. Why? I asked. I didn't mean for it to go that far. You filmed it. They said it would be funny. I thought it was just a joke. I didn't know he was really going to shoot. I hit him, not with my fist, with truth. You filmed it, you edited it, you posted it. He didn't deny it. That was enough. I tied him to a chair and opened the back door of the cabin. Then I whistled once, long and low. A dog's whistle. Nothing came, but he flinched anyway. I turned the camera on him this time. Filmed him as he wept, as he begged, as he offered names, bank accounts, apologies that didn't mean a goddamn thing. Then I played the recording back for him. Now you know what it feels like, I said. Then I dragged him outside. I didn't kill Mason Delridge in a flash of violence. I made it slow, personal. I let him walk barefoot into the dark, then shot his ankle when he tried to run. I pulled him through the trees by the chain I'd wrapped around his neck, the same chain they left around Hunter's throat. I made him crawl, and at the end, when he was too broken to speak, I held up a bullet with my own name carved into it. I've carried this for a long time, I said. You don't get to own my story anymore. Then I left him there. Let the coyotes finish what I started. By morning, all that remained was the blood trail and a single brass shell. But revenge doesn't always end with the last body. Sometimes it ends when the rage finally runs out of targets. They stopped calling me a killer after Mason. They called me a myth. The dog tag killer became campfire legend, the name whispered in hunting lodges and late-night gas stations. They said I was a ghost in the trees, a spirit sent to punish cruelty. Some imagined I was a vet with PTSD. Others swore I was just a man whose soul broke clean in half. They were all wrong, and they were all right. Truth is, I was just a man who had something beautiful taken from him, and I never let the world forget it. But after Mason, I didn't hunt anymore. I wandered. The rifle stayed close, always. Clean, loaded, ready. But I no longer looked for names, no longer trailed the scent of guilt. There were no more laughs echoing from iPhones, no more smirking boys on trails they didn't respect, just quiet. Still, the scars didn't fade. The dreams came every night. Hunter running through leaves, always just out of reach, barking once before vanishing into the fog. I'd wake with my heart pounding, my hands reaching for a leash that wasn't there. I slept in a different place every few days. Hollow trees. Abandoned sheds. The world didn't feel safe anymore. Not because I feared rest. I knew how to hide. But because I didn't trust it. A world that let people like them walk free didn't deserve my peace. It took months before I returned to the cabin. I came at night, walked the old path like a ghost slipping back into its bones. The door creaked just like it used to. The air inside was stale, dust in the moonlight. I lit a lantern and sat in the same chair where I first watched that video. I played it again. Not out of obsession, not out of rage. I needed to know if it still hurt. It did, but less than before. There was mail stacked at the door, unpaid bills, warnings, even a note from my sister saying she hoped I was alive. She had buried our mother the month before. Cancer. I hadn't known. That night, I buried the rifle, took it behind the shed, next to Hunter's grave, and dug until the sweat stung my eyes. I wrapped the weapon in oilcloth, placed it next to a sealed tin of rounds, and lowered it into the earth. Then I covered it and packed the soil firm. I left his collar hanging on the grave marker. I didn't say anything. Words had never done much for me. I didn't stay at the cabin. I didn't think I could. The blood in the floorboards was mine, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a shrine to pain. Instead, I drove west. I found work with a small tree-clearing crew in Montana. No questions asked, cash in hand, long days swinging a blade through the wilderness. Nights were quiet. Sometimes I heard coyotes in the distance and thought of him, running beside them, free and wild. Once, A guy on the crew brought up the dog tag killer. Told the story over beers like it was Bigfoot. Said he heard the guy only killed people who hurt animals. Called him a hero. I didn't say a word. Just smiled into the fire. The scar across my ribs itched that night. I scratched it slow, remembered the bark of the rifle, the smell of blood. There was no joy in what I did, no peace, but there was truth, and sometimes truth is the only justice left. Years passed. People forgot, but I didn't. I visited Hunter's grave every spring, planted wildflowers around it, the kind he used to roll in. The cabin sagged more with each year, moss eating at the shingles. I didn't fix it. Let nature take it, let it fade, like we all do. One spring I found a box on the grave. Inside was a small wooden carving, a dog, hand-whittled, rough but careful. Next to it, a folded note. I saw what they did. I didn't speak up. I was a coward. I'm sorry. There was no name, just that. I burned the note, but kept the carving. It sits beside me now, as I write this. An old man with a quiet heart and a past that howls in the distance like a storm you think might never hit. This story has no moral, no happy ending. Just a man, a dog, and the price of silence. They killed my dog for fun, and I came back with a rifle and no mercy. Now finally there's silence.